What is up, everybody? It is Craig. Today is Tuesday, and it's time for another episode of Talk Freight with a Members Helping Members video series. This is actually our 6th episode, but our first episode streaming live from LinkedIn. I'm very excited for that. I applied to start doing LinkedIn live videos about a month or so ago, and today they accepted it. So we are doing our first one live on LinkedIn. It's actually the first of many. We have another one going on Thursday. And of course, our regular Make More Money Monday, sponsored by truckstop.com. That will be taking place on LinkedIn as well. So if you see any shenanigans with the video or streaming, please have patience with me as I kind of figure this out. Because as you may know, I'm a one-man band out on my side here. But nonetheless, tonight, we have guest Jason. He's from the logistics company, JMP Transportation Consultants out of Orlando, Florida. I see you, Steven. I see you, Marquette. Thank you for guys joining. Thank you for all your support. We're going to bring Jason up. We're going to pick his brain, see what makes him successful, ask his tips, tricks, resources, all that jazz. And hopefully it will help, other people in the industry. As we said before, the smart people learn from the mistakes of other people in the industry. So I'm definitely excited to bring him on, talk to him. If I miss your comments, please bear with me. I will, get back to him. But let's go ahead and bring Jason on here. Jason, can you hear me? Can you see me?
Excellent. Sure can, Craig. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate Jason. I see that you're a new member of our group, Freight Brokers and Truck Drivers. So I definitely appreciate, joining there and also signing up as a volunteer to talk freight with me.
Absolutely. Wish I would have found the group sooner.
I appreciate that.
Looks great.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. Even though you're a new member, I clicked on your profile before this broadcast and see that you've definitely been active, in the comments with other members and all that. So it's definitely appreciated.
Well, they have some interesting scenarios, they would say. And I'm excited that this is on LinkedIn. I've been a long-time user of LinkedIn. I think I got my profile started back in 2011.
Nice.
2010 on LinkedIn. So I've been on it for over a decade. Love
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I definitely, I haven't been on there that long on LinkedIn, but I'm definitely on there. I'm trying to grow up my connection there. You may have seen my post saying, please, people, give me some love on LinkedIn. So I can go after that.
Well, I just saw it because we just finally connected.
Exactly. I'm glad that's all that matters here. So good deal. And now I want to ask you, Jason, since, I just mentioned you don't know much about me. I don't know much about you. How long have you been in the industry? What do you do at JMP? What's the plan at JMP? What's going on there?
Excellent. So more or less, I've been in the industry. I'm going on my 21st year.
Nice.
My introduction to the industry was with the cargo airlines in Atlanta. Started with them, worked for a GHA for almost 6 years, and then moved over to the freight forwarding side. From there, I worked for a very large freight forwarder, not exactly multinational, but one of the larger domestic forwarders in the United States. Worked with them in 3 different locations, Atlanta, Miami, and Orlando. And finally decided to take it out on my own and be able to give my expertise and my advice to clients who see the value in it.
That's great.
Yeah, more or less. I handle all aspects from international air freight, import and export, ocean air freight, import and export, and truckload. Dry van, reefer, flatbed, anything that it requires some special handling and you don't know what to do with it, that's where I come in. I like to jump in on those. I don't like the easy freight. I like the difficult freight.
Sounds good. I always joke around with members that, when I broker day to day, I was all about the easy freight, and I'm not, afraid to admit it. I handled, general freight dry van, general freight reefer. That's just what I did. No shame in my game there, but it's very interesting, that you handle more than just dry van. I heard you say when people have specialty freight, you're essentially the man with a plan for that one. Did you start on the air freight side, or did you jump in that from the van freight, or where did you start in the transportation industry?
It started on the international air freight.
Nice.
Once I left the international airlines, I was working with Air New Zealand, Polar Air, Korean Air. Then moved over to the freight forwarding side and really took my licks on the domestic air freight. Domestic air freight was, back in Kitty Hawk days. This might be before your time, Craig.
I'm
But
not going to admit it.
it wasn't just DHL, UPS, and FedEx. We had some
Got it.
choices as far as BATS, Burlington Air Global, Kitty Hawk. So, of course, that freight forwarder handled a ton of truckload convention center show freight. And that's when I really started cutting my teeth on the domestic truckload side.
Got it.
So well-rounded, I'd like to think.
Yeah, definitely sounds like you started with the more harder freight, a more challenging freight, if you will, before you hopped over in my neck of the woods with that easy drive.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of truck drivers listening and watching that would disagree with that. Both can be quite difficult.
Sure.
Be quite difficult. So I don't want to take away from the truckload guys. They've got the horror stories.
No, I'm with you.
Both heard many of those, right?
Yeah, so, I'm definitely with you on that one.
Definitely, it's cargo's just a challenge, and it's honestly the only thing I can see myself doing. I've just been doing it for 20 plus years and fell in love with it quick. I think if you get into the business, normally within 2 years, you either spit out or it's your job for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I like how you say that, because from my experience, of course, I haven't been in the industry 21 years. 21 years ago, I was a toddler almost, not really, but when I started, we call them the 89ers. I think a lot of the megas that I worked with, they from day 1 to day 89, if they didn't get it, they were kind of out the door. But exactly. I'm with you. Mine was about 2 years. I worked for, mega brokerages, all that jazz, the first year and a half, first 2 years. But I really, dived into the logistics industry right around the 2-year mark. And I realized, this is what I want to do. This is what I wanted to do, started moving in, in and around the logistics side. So I want to ask, on your brokerage side, are you mainly on the op side, or do you go out there, boots on the ground, going after customers, going after freight? Tell me about that.
I'm mostly on the sales side, per se. I do have a couple ops people.
Okay.
A lot of experience that I push that too. But more or less, I started on the ops side. So when I get out there to the customer, I'm not filling them with BS and just telling them what they want to hear.
Right.
I'm able to answer intelligent questions. And I think my ops people appreciate that, because I'm not setting them up for failure when they go and, how am I going to find service for this load? How are we going to get this loaded in such an amount of time?
Right.
So, having smart, intelligent salespeople that have had a lot of operation experience, I feel that those people have the most success in our business.
I agree, and I don't know if I agree because I'm going to be biased with it, but that's exactly how I am. I say I was born in an operations role who learned sales. I know a lot of people, they say, I'm a natural sales, born a sales guy who learned ops. But, from mine, I'm sounding like a little bit from you. Knowing operations can definitely help your sales career, or helping you land these shippers, out in the industry, because as you said, you do know what you're talking about. You have experience on that side, or actually on both sides of the industry. And so I wanted to ask about your sales, because the number one question I'm asked, at least from members of our Facebook group, Freight Brokers and Truck Drivers, is typically from either, newer freight agents or newer brokers. And they always say, Craig, I'm pounding the phones every day. I'm not getting the shippers. What can I do? So I want to ask you, in the 21 years of combined experience, that you have, what are some of your tips or tricks or resources that can help new freight agents or new freight brokers be successful as well in their career?
Really is to stand out. And by stand out, I don't necessarily mean call every morning at 9:15 a.m. and hound them, but sometimes that works. I had an old boss tell me every operation person is a salesperson.
Sure.
The operation person is on the phone with that customer more than the sales rep. The sales rep might only see them once a month, maybe once a quarter. So really, you have to have strong operational people that understand, know how to put the sales hat on, that, their sales every time they answer the phone.
Right.
A lot of success comes with finding the right customers that fit. So not all business is good business. So sometimes you just have to, hey, what can I do to help you? Do we fit together?
Right.
Am I able to give you value to this service? And once you can find that match between two companies where the everyone's satisfied,
I
you know,
agree.
it's not good business if only the shipper makes money and I don't. And it's not good business if only I make money and you don't. We
Right.
have to be able to do it together, lower it, keep your costs at a reasonable level
Sure.
while as being profitable. Because like I said, I mean, I turn down loads all the time. I'm not going to just bottom load it just to make my numbers. I've got more important things to do,
Post and
in my
hope,
opinion.
right? Post
Yes.
it and hope.
Exactly. Exactly. So a lot of time is, what you're doing here, putting out content that customers can see, carriers can see, all different types of
Right.
people can see. I think that's one of the best things we have nowadays that we didn't have when I started. And I think that's how social media is definitely changing things to where we're able to talk about this
Yeah.
and people are able to see it. And we haven't had a one-on-one conversation with them.
Right.
We're
Right.
already making a sales call just talking about freight. And they finish the watching the video, listening to the podcast and go, those guys know what they're talking about. I'm going to reach out to them next time I have a problem.
Sure. And, from doing this, I have witnessed that firsthand, a bunch of times. I had people, meet with me at GATS last year and say, "Hey, Craig, I watch your videos." And it's great because that is one thing that I use to make myself stand out, not just for my personal brand, but also for my company Freight brand as well, which it definitely helps. And talk about you standing out. Before I do a video with someone, of course, I do a simple Google search to
Mhm.
see if I can find them. Because like Joel Osteen, I'm constantly preaching that you need to be found. Shippers, brokers, carriers, they need to find each other because if you're not found, it looks weird. So I did a simple Google search about you. I found your Facebook page. I found your website. I found different active pages about you or your company, especially on LinkedIn as well. And,
Mhm.
that makes me feel good from an outsider. So I imagine it makes, other shipper, broker, other transportation vendors and carriers feel safer as well. And, I'm glad you mentioned that point about, the new agents, new brokers, because another thing that I always mention is, you can pound these phones, you could do this and this, you could do what the last guy did, but it does not mean it's going to help you. What works
Yeah.
for me may not work for you. So you have to find, your niche, your niche, if you will. And the last part that I want to touch on that you said is you turn down loads all the time. I'm going to use my personal experience starting out, little old Craig, 18, 19 years old, wanting to be a freight agent, 10 years ago, working brokering. I called everybody under the moon. If they answered, I'm begging for freight.
Mhm.
I quickly realized that's not how you do it. There was better ways to do it. And not only that, if you fire your customer or have the courage or the confidence to tell your customer that this load is not going to work, you may actually make more money. Because some people, they take everything under the sun, and at the end of the week, they say, "Wait, I'm not making money. It's not adding up." Sometimes you have to tell your customer it's not a good fit, and that is okay. So I'm glad you mentioned that
Absolutely.
for new freight brokers or new agents, because I think they need to hear that the most there.
I mean, I've had some incredible mentors and bosses
Sure.
over the years, and that one a very old guy, Steve, he's an incredible guy. He's like, there's a lot of power in the word no.
Yeah, there is.
I can't do that, or no, I can't match that rate.
Right.
But what I can do is come close to that rate and just absolutely destroy the other guy's service and
There
give
we
you
go.
the service you need and want, and that your customer needs and wants. Because
Right.
not only are you shipping their freight, you're the presentation to their end customer. And
That's
what kind
exactly
of
right.
reputation do you want to hold? Do you want you know just the worst trailer you ever seen show up, or would you like a really, really good experience? Someone,
Right.
hey, I want to order from them again. Everything showed up perfect, driver perfect, truck perfect, on time, exactly when they said. There's a lot of value to that.
I
And there's a
totally
lot
agree.
of brokers out there that are just completely price driven.
Right.
And that's just not in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm here to provide a service. And so my prices sometimes reflect my experience and my service. And
Sure.
more
Understood.
times than not, my customers go for it. They
Right.
go for
And
it.
I'm sure, from that statement that you just said here, I'm sure a lot of drivers, carriers, owner ops, all that jazz, they can appreciate a broker or logistics professional who has that mindset, in the industry. Because if you as a broker accept a cheap load, which that can mean anything, but let's say if you accept a cheap load and you post and hope, the end result is a driver is taking that load at a very cheap cost. And usually you hear about that driver's experience in a Facebook group when they call out a broker or they mention, why is the rates like this, all that jazz. So I'm sure not only, everybody else in the industry, but I'm definitely sure drivers can definitely, relate to that. Now I want to ask you the golden question. Okay. Every time I ask a broker or, talk with a broker, I always ask them a question randomly. And that is, do you as a broker pay detention?
Absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of times in the beginning of the quote, when I'm working with a customer, we're going to spell that out immediately. How much load time do I get? How much unload time do I get at destination? I'd say anything over an hour is absolutely chargeable within 15-minute and 30-minute increments.
Sure.
Driver's time is extremely important. Their trucks sitting there not being used. Now, again, if it's a load where we said, hey, they don't open till 6 a.m., if you get your part, as long as we've discussed the open, hey, they can't receive this until 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. And you show up at midnight and trying to get detention. No, we talked about this in the beginning.
No, I understand that.
I think that goes with carriers and truckers dealing with freight brokers that know how to ask these questions.
Right.
Because it's always the questions you don't ask that kill you. And you need to get all this information from the customer, from the shipper, from the company, so you have an intelligent quote to give.
That's, I want to touch on that because that's exactly right. I think a lot of the issues, and I'm going to bring up my group as well. I think a lot of the issues in the industry is a disconnect between freight brokers and truck drivers. And now, as you may see, our group, or my group, is actually called Freight Brokers and Truck Drivers, and it was created to help bridge the gap between the two people in the industry. And now, as you said, you think there is a disconnect, and I think so too. And drivers oftentimes, they get burned or the most frustrated when they go through an event or, let's say, of extra charges and they don't get paid because they were not prepared. In my group, that's why I started making all these printable resources that people can find, my Facebook group or my website, craigbliss.com. But I have downloadable and printable resources for truck drivers, accessorial sheets, all that jazz, detention cheat sheets, so they can use it when they're booking freight with a broker, go down the checklist to make sure that they have requested everything, that they have said everything, so they do not get burned. I always say, you may never use it, but you best believe you're going to be glad that you use these tips and tricks at the time of billing, because that's the time that, a lot of people are usually the most frustrated with. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's definitely ring true to everybody.
Well, I think that comes into play more with like the newer freight broker that doesn't know to ask these questions. And that's like, while you dealing with someone with a lot of experience as you and I have, that there's a lot of value and we know the right questions to ask. We need to, you've got a dock, you can accept a dock, you have a forklift, can you handle this?
Yeah, and even more so.
And a lot of newer freight brokers are kind of just like grip it and rip it. I hate to use my golf term, but they just book it and throw it.
Yeah, and that also, it does a disservice to the carrier. The broker, the agent's inexperience. It does definitely a disservice to the carrier, because the carrier, let's say they're more experienced than the freight broker, freight agent, they will get stuck on a layover and not getting paid, because a broker may say, well, you didn't request it in time, or let's say detention, they will say, you didn't give us enough heads up. A lot of that is from a simple disconnect at the time of booking the load. And that's where, a lot of my cheat sheets, they help these drivers, because as you mentioned, they're not as experienced, or this brokerage doesn't have the protocols in place to make sure all their logistics coordinators ask the right questions, or, put everything in place at the time is needed. There's huge disconnects. And a lot of times it comes to money. I think a lot of times that's what drivers get most frustrated with. So if the brokerage is not as experienced, a lot of times it does a huge disservice to the drivers. And we read about it every day. And, not only my Facebook group, but everybody else's Facebook group as well.
all through LinkedIn, all through multiple groups I'm on.
Yeah,
You know,
YouTube.
as you and I have taught, I did a lot of convention center show freight.
Right, right.
You know, a lot of when booking those loads, a lot of drivers are scared of it. You know, they don't know what to do. But it's my job to bring them on. It's like, hey, as long as you let me know when you got checked in,
I like it.
when you got called up, and when you got unloaded and out, I can pay you for all that time, but you have to communicate.
There we go.
You've got to let me know. And as long as we do it by the book, a lot of drivers find that the convention center show freight is more lucrative because they're getting that. They're making sure they're paid their
Right.
detention. You know, if they need a scale ticket, they need, you know, empty and loaded weights. You know, those are services I'm willing to pay for as a freight broker because
Good deal.
I charge my customer for that.
Good deal. Yeah, and everything, you know,
Where I
as I
make
said
my money.
earlier, yeah, you know, every situation dictates every response or every scenario there. But mentioning trade show freight, you know, I used to do that back, you know, many, many moons ago. I used to drive sprinters, and one of my main customers just happened to be a Chicago graphics company that did a ton of trade shows.
Yeah.
I was going from, you know, Central Illinois, where I was based out of Champaign-Urbana, down to Atlanta twice a week. I absolutely loved it in a sprinter. Probably want to do it, you know, in a semi. But
Well,
you know,
then,
sprinter
then
was
you
good.
work 7 days a week like I did through that time because it's a 7 day a week business when you really go
Right.
out to freight like that. Those,
Yeah.
those shows are
A lot of
almost
waiting though.
never Monday through Friday, 8
I,
a.m. to
I was
5
gonna say, yeah, that stuff's a lot of waiting. I'll pick up a Chicago.
Mhm.
It's always easy load. You know, you get
Yeah.
to the
Oh, yeah.
Atlanta convention or the Indy convention, whatever.
Know it
You're just
well.
waiting. No one knows what's going on. No one knows anybody. There's no Jim Bob like the, you know, the rate confirmation says ask for. Jim Bob's not answering his phone. It's always a headache, but it's nice to hear, refreshing to hear you as a broker. You're out there saying, you know, drivers, you know, don't be afraid of my convention freight or my trade show freight. I'm here to take care of you. I'm here to be your ally. It sounds like what you're saying.
Exactly. Absolutely. And like I said, they can find that they can be very profitable loads. You know,
Sure.
as long as everything's cut black and white in the beginning and you know how you're getting paid and
Right.
they can you know, be really good loads. They
Right.
do
I'm with you.
require, like I said, some extra communication. But I feel like, you know, my ops people, I want them communicating with these drivers.
Sure.
And you know, the driver, call if there's a problem. That's always one of the things I like for my people to say is like, let me know if you have a problem.
Right.
Don't let me know after the problems got unbearable. Let me
That's
know, hey,
exactly
I'm there. They don't know what I'm talking about, or this is union and they only accept during this.
right. Sure.
If we can
Sure.
find out that misinformation and be able to go back to our customers and say, hey, you didn't give us the correct information. We have revised costs.
Right.
And then therefore making, like I said, these drivers are running all over the country. They're away from their families, they're away from their loved ones, and they're out there trying to make a living. We got to protect them.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. You know, it's 2020 is a very interesting year. As I mentioned before, 2019, everybody loved the year 2019 except shippers.
Mhm.
2019, it's been a rough year. You know, 2020, we're barely at the second month of 2020. I keep saying it's going to be a very, very interesting year. You know, I think a lot of this year is going to be leveling out. I think the market's still leveling out right now. I feel we're in a little dip, but I think we're always in a dip this time of year. That always picks back up. But
Exactly.
nonetheless, I'm hoping to see the number soon. FreightWaves is one of my trusted sources. I get a lot of my data from FreightWaves amongst other people. So I'm just anxious to see how this year is going to play out, you know, number wise. But I'm rooting for the carriers, especially the small fleet owners, the owner ops. You know, those are the people that I look out for the most. But of course, all my logistics professionals, freight agents, freight brokers. You know, I'm hoping it's this time of the year to shine. I'm hoping it's their year to shine. But if it's not, you know, you have to change something up in your operations.
Well, you know, there's good numbers out right now for January already for 2020.
You got them?
U.S. Factories are up with an index. They went from a 47.8 index. Don't ask me how to calculate this index, but it's increased
Fair
to a
enough.
50.9. A lot of people can attribute that to maybe the China tariffs, to where we're seeing more production done in the U.S.
Got it.
They're not exactly sure on that. I don't want to support that because I've had a lot of customers adversely affected by the China tariffs.
No, I understand, especially with you on the international side.
Exactly. I mean, that's a big portion of JMP Transportation Consultants is helping customers with these customs consultations,
Got
and
it.
maybe helping them literally going to the point of source where maybe we're suggesting they source from different countries.
Got it. Okay.
We're able to use trade agreements that have not been touched.
Right.
So that's one service that we do on the side for consignees here that are maybe getting raw materials, or
Sure.
even freight forwarders who want to borrow my knowledge and give it to their customers as well.
I like it.
With the way CH Robinson, their last fourth quarter, uh, we have to rebound. Hopefully, we can rebound. I know they got aggressive. They went and repriced a bunch of contracts to avoid losing market share, which, in my opinion, hurts the industry.
Sure.
Instead of letting the prices come up, they've forced them back down.
Right.
It's going to be very interesting, and that's where I think technology is coming in. We're going to have to utilize it. We're going to have to be more and more. We're going to have to run as lean as we possibly can.
I'm totally with you. And that's, actually one of our, before I get to Mo, Facebook member Mo, he has a question before I get to him. One of our group sponsor, truckstop.com, they're all about the technology. And I was talking about technology in my videos a year before, I was introduced to truckstop.com as a group sponsor. So I'm all about the technology, especially in, the era that I was born in. I guess a lot of people call me a millennial, I suppose. But technology, you save money, or excuse me, you save time with technology. And we all know, especially in trucking, time equals money. And so as drivers get on the bandwagon of technology, they're noticing they're going more direct. They're saving money by going more direct. And that could be direct with a great broker or direct to the source of the freight. I've talked about this in the last, couple weeks videos. So I think it's great. And Facebook member Mo, he asks, is rates crashing? Let me ask you that. What do you think about rates? Of course, it's only the second month of 2020. And so from your personal opinion, from what you see in your experience, what do you think?
Slightly. I mean, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Okay.
Especially with how these big dogs are, what they're seeing profit-wise. You and I talked about it off camera.
Right.
Margins, some of them are experiencing are just unsustainable for a smaller broker.
See,
even a smaller trucker. We need them to come up. And I know shippers and consignees don't want to hear that, but in order to for them to have the equipment they need when they need it, they really need to come back up. We experienced it on the ocean side a couple years ago on the import side with rates out of China. The rates had gotten so low, the steamship lines all took losses. We saw 2 different gigantic steamship lines go out of business.
Right.
$1 trillion companies gone due to unsustainable freight levels.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Let's hope that the U.S. factory production continues an upturn, and we see a small squeeze on capacity, and we can get these rates up.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's why I always mention, truck drivers, freight broker, my carrier friends, other logistics professionals. You guys have to use your resources, to see the way the market's flipping, to see your position in this industry. I always say sometimes the most sharpest tools or the best tools that you can arm yourself with or that should be in your toolbox are the free ones. We're talking about YouTube, Google, social media account. There's FreightWaves, which is, obviously the number one in my eyes. Then you have, Transport Topics, CDL Live. You have the Facebook groups. You have the YouTube channels with different video creators constantly spreading their knowledge out in the freight masses. Those are outstanding resources, people can use to get ahead in the market to see what the freight is saying, what the freight in the market is saying, just to stay ahead of the curve, because the people who struggle the most are the ones who wake up and say, oh, I'm in an area that's bad. Should have known that days ago. Or the one saying, I called every shipper in this town and not a single one gave me loads. Well, if you have the data, you will see where the shippers are needing you. Exactly. And it's all about just finding your resources, finding your information, using tools such as truckstop.com and others out in the industry to save time, because time always equals money. And that's what we're all about.
That's it. You nailed it. Nailed it, Greg.
There we go. So Jason, it was outstanding. It was awesome, sitting down, speaking with you, talking freight with you. I definitely appreciate you being a member of our group, Freight Brokers and Truck Drivers. I'm definitely going to look forward to having you member there. We're now connected on LinkedIn, I see here. So hopefully I'll be seeing your expertise, on the LinkedIn world. Our video would now be on LinkedIn, of course, all the other ones after that one as well. So anytime you want to sit down and talk freight, let me know. Let's do this again. And,
Absolutely.
all that.
Absolutely, Craig. Love the format. Love the idea of it being on LinkedIn. Can't wait to share it to my company page. And let's all have a safe and profitable 2020.
There we
and
go.
Stay informed. Remember, communication's key. And hopefully we can just go out there and do what we do and make money from it. That's really what we're all here to do.
I'm with you. Yep. Stay informed, communicate, and let's all make more money, because that, at the end of the day, is what we're here for. We all want to provide for our families. We all just want to have an honest living. That's it. It shouldn't be that hard to ask for. So I'm glad with these videos, not only are Make More Money Mondays sponsored by truckstop.com, but our Tuesdays and Thursdays video series Talk Freight. I'm definitely enjoying pulling members out of the group, sitting here, picking their brain. I'm hoping it will help other members out in the industry, because it definitely helps mine. And so I hope to speak with you soon, Jason. Until next time.
I look forward to being on here again. Love the comments over here, guys. Thank you for the compliments. And we'll get together again. Like I said, 2020 is going to be a good one. We have to stay positive. So let's do it.
Positive thoughts equal positive results. Jason, exactly. I will see you out in the Facebook world.
You got it, Craig. Thanks so much.
Oh, man, that was awesome. This was actually awesome. Jason from JMP Transportation Consultants out of Orlando, Florida there. A lot of great stuff. When I spoke with him earlier today off camera, I asked him, do you do dry van? Do you do reefer? What do you do? He started spitting out a lot of knowledge. And I'm like, this is going to be a great guy to sit down and speak to, because you just don't do that easy freight like I do or used to do, that I have no shame in admitting to. So nonetheless, this was a great time. It was great, speaking with Jason. You may have seen my banner pop up towards the end of that. If you guys want to talk freight with me on camera in this format, simply go to my website, click on the group tab to learn more about it, fill it out, and I will be in touch. As I mentioned in the beginning, the real smart people learn from the mistakes of others in the industry. So let's do that. Let's learn from others. Let's bring on more professionals and learn from them, so we can all be successful in this industry, because that's how it should be. And if you guys can see below, if you're not a member of my Facebook group, join the other 17,300 people who are, just by going to Facebook and searching Freight Brokers and Truck Drivers. Click request, and you and I, we will be in touch as well. Thursday, we have another Talk Freight with myself, followed by one on Monday, our Make More Money Mondays. If you guys are going to Matt's at the end of March, make sure you send me an email so we can meet up. Until next time, remember, say no to cheap freight, remain professional, and let's make more money in 2020. I'll see you guys Thursday. See you later.